Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Guys of Magic. This is Hunter, David, and Shane. Say what up, boys.
What's up?
What up, nerds?
We are back this time, June 5th, 2023. We got another batch of spoilers. Had a couple trickle out over the weekend, so we'll talk about those first. But overall, a pretty good batch here. So let's start off with this first legendary artifact, Palantir of Orthanc. It's 3 generic mana for a legendary artifact that says at the beginning of your end step, put an influence counter on it and scry 2. Then target opponent may have you draw a card. If that player doesn't, you mill X cards, where X is the number of influence counters on Palantir of Orthanc. That player loses life equal to the total mana value of cards milled this way. What do you think, Shane?
I just love the way you said it multiple times.
Orthanc.
Orthanc. This is gonna go in a Parry the Pulverizer deck, yeah.
It's a different kind of counter, absolutely.
Yeah.
Influence counters.
That's the only thing I'm thinking about. Otherwise, I guess it's cool.
It's one of those things. What's that card that I'm thinking of, David? That you choose either.
Combustible Gear Hulk.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's immediately what I think of with this. But I mean, that's also on a creature, and this is much cheaper than that too.
It's true, and it's cool that it's at the beginning of end step, meaning you can get an influence counter immediately, instead of like upkeep or something like that. So always scrying too, just period. Like the draw card, I think is cool, but just hurting someone and scrying too is just a fantastic, just on the battlefield always capability.
Seems real good.
I mean, you're not necessarily dealing damage here. They have to be able to choose that.
Sure. How often are you choosing them to draw a card?
It depends on how many counters are on this. I do think that this is a card that, like, because it starts so small and slow, I think that this is probably going to be something that's really good if you have it sit down or if you can, like, proliferate where it's on the battlefield for a long time. But I feel like in the early stages of the game, whenever you're just, like, looking for X's like 1 or 2 or 3, this card's... I don't think it's doing a whole lot.
Obviously, this goes into a recursion deck, right? Because you're going to be milling yourself quite a bit.
I don't know. I mean, it's just going to be card advantage because you are scrying, and then, like, I don't know. There's ways to set this up. I do think that probably the more streamlined your deck is, probably the worse this card gets, because generally speaking, your mana value tends to decrease. I don't think that this is a card that I would want to pick up in draft, and I don't actually... I think this would probably be like a very niche card for most commander decks.
Well, scrying gives you the capability of putting some giant things on top of the deck that you can reanimate and also deal a bunch of damage to that opponent, knowing they will make you mill it instead. I think that's pretty cool.
That's also assuming you're playing a giant things deck.
Yeah, why not?
That's why I said, like, this is niche. Like, it has a home. I just don't think this is going to be something that, like, you want to consider and slot into most of your decks.
Reanimate stuff. It's cool. Moving on to Arwen, Mortal Queen. It is 1 a green and a white for a 2/2 legendary creature, Elf Noble. Arwen, Mortal Queen, enters the battlefield with an indestructible counter on it. You can also pay 1, remove an indestructible counter from Arwen. Another target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. Put a +1/+1 counter and a lifelink counter on that creature, and put a +1/+1 counter and a lifelink counter on Arwen. So this
That seems like a good card.
Wants to flicker. Am I wrong?
I don't think I want to flicker this. I think, well, I mean, like, yeah, you definitely could. I look at this and, like, I want to proliferate this. That way I can, like, get those, like, multiple indestructible counters on things. That way I can start removing it.
Good point.
Or, like, Ozolith works really well here. Which, by the way, Ozolith is one of the box toppers.
There you go. This is a great card, though, dude. It puts a lot of +1/+1 counters and lifelink. That's rad. A lot of stuff, dude.
Puts 2 counters, 1 on itself, 1 on another thing.
I mean, that's a lot for one card. And lifelink. And the card itself is indestructible.
That's why I was thinking if you flicker this, or like David said, you have to proliferate, keep more indestructible, because once you move that indestructible counter, it's a useless card.
True, but then you can, yeah, I mean, it's not useless.
It is. Doesn't do anything else unless it has an indestructible counter.
I mean, if it doesn't have the indestructible counter, it also gets +1/+1 in lifelink.
And then you can start proliferating that. It kind of starts off a proliferation engine.
And like, it is gifting counters to other things too. So, like, I don't know. I think this is pretty solid. And in like a draft environment, I mean, like 3 mana for a 2/2 with indestructible is going to be a massive pain in the butt. Like this thing is going to sit there and just block for days.
Yeah, you're right. I think it would be pretty cool in limited.
I actually kind of also like this in other formats too. I think that I like this in EDH. I know that we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth later on, but she comes out pretty cheap. And I mean, early drop with indestructible, potentially in the command zone.
In good colors? Yeah.
Well,
In good colors, your opinion.
Moving on to Radagast the Brown. It's 2 and 2 green for a 2/5 legendary creature avatar wizard. It says whenever Radagast the Brown or another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is that creature's mana value. You may reveal a creature card from among them that doesn't share a creature type with a creature you control, and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. That's interesting.
it's anti-tribal tribal.
I was gonna say, dude, you don't want to have a tribe here. Yeah, it's kind of reminds me of like Winota, where it's got to be like non-humans. Is that Winota?
Yeah, Winota cares about humans or non-humans. This one doesn't put them onto the battlefield. It does put it in your hand. So I mean, it is card advantage, and that's cool. But
Slow card
there's a-
advantage, though, yeah.
yeah, there's a huge distinction between like just throwing it into your hand versus throwing it into play.
Oh, I don't get me wrong, I know that, but it's there's also a whiff potential too.
Hey, but look, his art depicts his ability. All those different creatures.
He loves creatures, dude. Look at him.
Yeah.
He's got a little pet wolf.
This actually doesn't trigger on cast. This is triggering on ETB. So I feel like there's probably a loop here that you can form where you just like get your entire deck into play.
I
Or
guess
not
if you have the
into-
unlimited
not into
mana.
play. Yeah,
you
and I
still gotta
apologize,
cast
not into play. Maybe something like what's the Sabretooth team or Sabretooth or something?
it. I don't know. It seems an interesting card. We'll talk more when we get to the commander grades.
Yep.
Next up, Isildur's Fateful Strike. It is 2 and 2 black for a legendary instant. That's right. That means you can cast a legendary instant only if you control a legendary creature or planeswalker. It says destroy target creature. If its controller has more than 4 cards in hand, they exile from their hand equal to the difference. Is this good?
No.
I don't know.
I did see a comment on Reddit that I thought was really interesting, and that like this is like in the artwork and the storyline, he's like cutting off a part of Sauron's hand,
Yeah, his fingers.
and it's doing the same thing in the card. Like the ability here, it's cutting off a part of your opponent's hand.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Clever.
3 fingers if you would.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of cute. I don't actually think this card's very good though.
I don't either. I don't know why they had to make it legendary.
I don't know. Lore-wise, maybe? I don't know.
I mean, the set has a pretty big legendary like sub theme to it. So I'm not actually. It's not even a sub theme. It's just like is the theme is legendary stuff. So I don't know. It's kind of cool. This is the first legendary instant that we've gotten, so that's neat. But I don't think that I would ever play this card.
Yeah, speaking of legendary stuff, how come we haven't seen a planeswalker?
There are no planeswalkers in Middle Earth.
It says
duh.
You know what? Actually, this would make sense. We're gonna get Jace because remember he just kind of pieced out from the March of the Machine storyline, so he's just gonna pop in here at some point.
you.
Dude,
Hey, there was planeswalkers from Dungeons and Dragons. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean that is I feel like much more on theme. I don't know. You know what? Maybe because there are the 2 blue wizards from Lord of the Rings that just kind of like dip out immediately and don't really have much of a storyline. Maybe we'll get those as planeswalkers because I mean that's what planeswalkers do, right? They just kind of like dip out.
I guess. This legendary instant, not good. Next up, Flowering of the White Tree. It is 2 white mana for a legendary enchantment. It says legendary creatures you control get +2/+1 and have ward 1, and non-legendary creatures you control get +1/+1. This
guys,
card is
this is a good
fantastic.
Yeah, so this is a good one now. This card's
This is-
nuts.
This is a very, very good card that I
This is a
plan
crazy Anthem effect.
to throw into pretty much any white deck.
That's exactly why I don't like this card.
Because it's just too like generic or too universal. Because it's really
is-
good.
Both, all of the above of what you just said. It is so good, it's going to fit itself into any white deck. I mean, I feel like if you're playing Like obviously mono white, this is an auto include. If you're playing like maybe like a 2-color EDH or like even just like 2-color, if you're picking this thing up in like a draft, like this is going to make it into the deck. I feel like you really have to be playing probably 3 or more, and even at that point, I might still question whether or not I want this.
I would want this in, let's say someone's upgrading like this human token deck. That'd be pretty good, right?
Yeah, like a Aowen pre-constructed commander deck.
I think so, yeah.
Are you alluding to anything? Is it going over my head?
I'm not gonna throw this in my precon upgrade. Of course not.
Okay, just making sure.
Just so that I don't have to play up against this thing, I really hope this is priced out.
Ah,
Then it will be in the 300, Dave.
Priced out of that one too.
But I
This
think
card's
we
very
all
good.
can agree this is a nuts card.
yeah, it's a nuts card.
Moving on to Phial of Galadriel. It is 3 generic mana for a legendary artifact. It says if you would draw a card while you have no cards in hand, draw 2 cards instead. It also says if you would gain life while you have 5 or less life, you gain twice that much life instead. Tap to add 1 mana of any color.
Seems like a good card too.
I don't know. Is it?
No.
Why not?
I mean, it's a mana rock, sure, but it doesn't do anything unless
So-
you're like super losing.
Well, 3 mana for just like any color, that's pretty good. And if you go and you're going Heckbent or Hellbent, you're drawing 2 cards now. That's pretty good, dude.
Nope, I totally disagree. I don't like 3 mana rocks to begin with. So like that being the base on this card is I wouldn't play it for that ability. And then it has 2 other abilities that like they literally don't do anything for you unless you have these very specific circumstances. Like
Maybe if
I
you're
don't
like
know.
a storm deck, that would be good. You draw 2 cards instead of drawing 1 card when you're just emptying your hand. I have no idea.
Yeah, but like how often, even if you're trying to storm off, like normally that would require that you are still drawing a ton to be able to continue to actually storm off. I don't think that you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're like, okay, I'm going to try and push for a win here and cast like 40 spells during my turn. Oh, and by the way, I'm also top decking, so like Lady Luck better be on my side.
It's true. I don't know. It's a super weird card. Someone will find a deck to throw this in, but
I
it's
think
none
it'll
of the
find a home.
none of the ones we really play, do we?
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Next up, Shelob, Child of Ungoliant. It is for a black and a green for an 8/8 legendary creature spider demon. It's got Death Touch and Ward 2. It says other spiders you control have Death Touch and Ward 2. And whenever another creature dealt damage this turn by a spider you control dies, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a food artifact with pay 2, tap it, sacrifice artifact, gain 3 life, and lose all other card types. Spider Tribal.
This card is so cool.
It actually is a really cool card. That's pretty awesome. It makes
come it-
food off of your opponent's dead things. Cool.
Yeah, how come it doesn't just say you get a food like if it's a creature, do you get like its body still?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, that's okay, gotcha.
It loses all other card types.
But it's still like if it was a 5/5, it's a 5/5 food.
No, it's still a food artifact.
Well, then why
Right.
doesn't it say make a food artifact?
I think
It
it's
is-
like an ETB thing, right?
It's
It has-
literally just a food type.
Yeah, what the? This doesn't make any sense.
So that means you can get the ETB abilities and stuff that die, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, you have food with abilities. But it's
Food
not a
with abilities.
creature. It's not a creature,
not
so
a
you can't attack with food. No food fights.
Well, I'm guessing it's dead.
It is dead. You can eat it. You gain 3 life. Yeah, this is a
So-
fantastic card. This is a really cool commander.
This is really neat. We'll talk about it more from the commander's perspective later on. But I do have 2 critiques of this card that really like irk me a little bit.
Okay.
It's an 8/8. It's a spider. Why does it cost 6? I feel like it should cost 8. I know that strictly just makes the card worse, and like 6 mana is probably a really good spot for this. But like just aesthetically, I feel like it should be an 8 mana 8/8. That's just maybe me.
Just because of 8 legs. You're so funny.
Yeah. No. Like it really does bother me. And then my other thing is that like throughout Magic, most spiders have reach, which I get. Yes, okay, this one's like a little bit of a disconnect because it is Lord of the Rings. But the fact that this doesn't have reach, whereas reach is like a defining characteristic of, I feel like most spiders, I feel like is a little bit weird.
I would have broke the card, Dave.
I don't care.
What more do you want? Card's great as is.
Reach and 2 more mana. Maybe that's what it was.
He wants it to be worse and then better.
It's not playable as 8 mana, so let's cut the reach and drop its mana value.
Done.
This is why we're
Sold.
not
Spider
R&D,
Gaming.
boys.
Yeah, we would just break the game. Good card, good.
Definitely love that, though.
Moving on to Shagrat Loot Bearer. It is 2, a black and a red for a 4/4 legendary creature orc soldier. It says when it attacks, attach up to 1 target equipment to it, then amass orcs X, where X is the number of equipment attached to Shagrat. Dave, we have a Rakdos Equipment Manners Commander.
Yeah, I love how you come to me on this because this is my favorite color pairing, but like I don't really know what to make of this card because that's one of my least favorite strategies.
That's
You don't like
weird.
putting the pants on?
I don't like putting the pants on. At least not putting the pants on like this.
It's a Voltron Commander.
It is. And also the really cool thing is that like you just equip something to it. So like if your opponent has equipment, you can nab that equipment.
You're
Really?
also, I mean, can you nab it?
Yeah. You're not going to change control, but you can change who it's equipped to.
Attach. What do you mean?
So if my opponent has, I don't know, like a Shadow Spear, and I go and I attack with this, I can grab the Shadow Spear and put it on this creature.
Is that true?
That seems broken.
Yeah. I mean, my opponent still controls it, so they can choose to unequip it on their whenever they have the sorcery speed back up, so on their turn. But
Okay, I'll just take your word for it. That seems cool. However, you're only still just pumping up just the 1 orc, right? Which I think is kind of a bummer.
Well, then you're
Yeah.
making another big one.
It's 1 big orc.
I mean, you potentially not even make it a really big one. It depends on how many equipment are attached to this thing. If there's only 1 equipment, you're making a 1/1.
Well, yeah,
And
that's why I'm
then
imagining we're
next
making a big
turn, we're
one.
making putting a 1/1 counter on it.
I was going to say, you're not, I don't know.
I was
A
gonna say
mass
too,
is not a
yeah.
mechanic that I'm a fan of.
Yeah, I don't know. This card is weird. We'll talk
I'm gonna
more
say
when
it's
we get
weird.
to our commander grades. And the final card we're talking about today is King of the Oathbreakers. It is 2, a white and a black for a 3/3 legendary creature spirit noble. It's got flying. It says whenever King of the Oathbreakers or another spirit you control becomes a target of a spell, it phases out. Whenever King of the Oathbreakers or another spirit you control phases in, create a tapped 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. Shane, you are our spirit guy. What do you think of this cool card?
I love spirits, dude. I think this is a really cool card, but I'm confused when it says this or another spirit you control phases in. Wouldn't this only? Oh no, any spirit gets phased out, right?
Right?
Oh, okay. I'm unconfused now. I was thinking like only this guy phases. That's been pretty cool, dude. That means you can't really get rid of the spirits, and then they just come back and make more spirits.
Yep.
Dude, spirit tribal.
You can only pretty much kill these things with board wipes.
Board wipes, yeah. Damn.
There is a huge downside with this card. And that if
can't
your
pump it.
opponent has like any activated abilities to can target, they can just like repeatedly phase your board out over and over and over again.
Well, I don't think it's activated abilities. It's only spells.
Oh, you know what? You're right. I
true.
didn't see that. Okay. But I mean, I guess like even on that same line though, like if they can target something, even if it's just something like a bump spell, I mean, they can giant growth your commander and then your commander's gone.
I mean, that's true. That leaves you wide open for attacks too, dude.
That is true. It is. It's interesting because even when you target your stuff, it phases out.
Yeah, you can't really pump anything. Or I mean,
know.
it seems like a cool card. I could see myself playing around with it, but I don't know.
I think some real shenanigans can ensue.
Yeah.
Some spirit shenanigans.
Don't get me wrong, I'm actually pretty high on this card. I like the design. I think this is a very unique design space, and I absolutely love the fact that they're kind of exploring that. I just like there is some weird stuff going on here that you and your opponents can both have at with this card.
Yeah.
I
It's okay
agree.
that they come in tapped too, right? 'Cause if it was untapped, that might be a little broken.
I mean, yeah, because then they can block. I don't know.
Because don't creatures phase in at the beginning of your turn?
Yeah,
They do.
So
Yeah, so you won't have it for blocks.
you kind of have to wait like I guess you're not waiting an additional turn to attack, but like yeah, it does kind of mess with things. I feel like that's kind of like a tempo negative.
A little bit.
Yeah, that's going to do it for us today. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We are still in the middle of spoiler season. I know there's going to be a big video tomorrow, I believe. It's weekly MTG. They're going to show off a bunch of cards. So stay tuned for that one. Comment down below what your guys' favorite card was from today's spoiler. We'll start with Shane. Shane, do you have a favorite card?
I'll be the guy that's predictable. I like spirits. I'll pick the spirit.
King of the Oathbreakers. David, can I guess what yours is?
Yeah, take a wild guess.
Spiders.
It is 100% Shelob.
The great card. Golgari Spiders. I am going Flowering of the White Tree. It is a really busted enchantment that I love so much. I'm the mono white player, and this is perfect for me. Thank you very much. But that is going to do it. Check the description where you'll find links to our Instagram, our TikTok, and our Twitter. That is @guys@magic4each, especially our Instagram, where we talk not only about the rares and mythics in the videos, but we show you all of the commons and uncommons as they're spoiled throughout the week on our Instagram. Go follow along, check out if you want to see more. And until the next video, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Later.
Bye-bye.